We are recording. Welcome to another episode of Feral Polymaths. I'm Gail Towle, and
I'm Leah Quintana, enjoying the fall atmosphere of Gail's beautiful
fake
home.
background and fake hat and scarf. That if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see, but if you're listening, you are spared.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you're also spared from my laundry.
Yes, Mary Leah's got some laundry and some stuff going on back there, but we just made sure all the dildos were put away.
That's right. I like that was the criterion. It's like you have to have pants, underwear, no underwear in the background, no dildos. We're good. Whatever else is back there is fine.
Yes.
I do. I think I've showed you this before that I have my skull. So
Oh my goodness. Yes, that's very wonderful. That's a very nice skull.
my background there.
It's going to sit amongst the laundry.
Amongst the laundry. Now I feel more
Making a statement.
There we go. Now I feel like I've decorated my space.
So
Cool.
if I take my hat off, we can see my new haircut.
Your haircut?
Oh, wait, no, that's not it. Hold on. I have to. How do I do this now? I don't even know how to make it go away. Oh, I just click. Oh, all my hair was chopped off. Remember how I had long hair, everybody? Now it's all gone because I felt like chopping it all off one day. Mary Leah has known me for many, many years. You've seen my hair get very long and then very short again, and then very long and then very short again. It's a thing.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I'm particularly rakish today.
Yeah. So I just chopped it off again. I've done this many times in my life. It usually confuses people. And I don't really have good reasons. I just get tired of hair and then I chop it off.
That's okay.
In part, so I was starting to do more CrossFit, and like you sweat and then you have to shower and then you have all this hair and then you're just like, oh my God, why is half of my day washing my hair and then waiting for it to dry? I don't even do anything with my hair. It just hangs off my head. So I'm just gonna chop it off. And that's what I did.
But is it easier or is it?
Oh yeah, I mean the shampoo process is pretty fast now. And
I've never truly cut my hair, except for, well, I think I told you I went to this thing where an artist was like, I'm cutting everyone's hair, but just so you know, I have no idea how to cut hair.
And that's good. That's how you learn.
And this is my art piece.
I just practice on my children, so.
Actually, I thought that the concept was kind of interesting. Their idea was like, all right, people cut hair and they cut it into styles, and you're supposed to have a style, right? And it's supposed to be like this thing, and then once you have it in the style, that's who you are, right? He's like, well, I think, and he was also saying that, he was reading about queerness and how queerness is a totally crazy thing, and it doesn't really fit into all these different categories, kind of like haircuts. So he's like, if you just cut your hair at random,
it's still a haircut.
So if you just
oh my God, that's genius.
Identity is
you can do things shittily and they still get. It's like, I can also make a painting without knowing how to paint. I just put paint on paper or canvas.
It's very much
and then I have created, and who's to say that it's better or worse than someone with actual skills?
Well, just so you know, that whole entire experience was an art piece. And then after that, I started cutting my own hair. So I feel like I learned something.
Yep.
I learned both the vast opportunities in shitty art, but I also learned acceptance.
Yes. What a world we live in, Mary Leah. Man, I try to prepare my children for the world. We know how that goes. We won't air the drama of my middle child, but I'm gonna have a Marine. Maybe he's gonna go in the Marine Corps, which is interesting. I made a post on one of the Smith College alumni parenting face group pages for parents of ones that are going to be adults or are adults, right? And I'm all like, anyone else have a kid thinking of going into the Marines or the military? And it's just crickets. Because they're all like, I don't know. If anyone listens, they're going to be like pissed at me for this. But I swear to God, some of the shit discussed on there, I'm just like, really, people, really? Well, we won't say anything else. We've both seen the posts.
You can go if you've gone.
You're a Smith College alum and you answer the questions and you join the group, and you too can contemplate your navel and your child's navel. And
if we were still at Smith, contemplating our navel would be cool.
yes. Well, see, Smith is like very liberal. And I don't like classifying myself politically, but any political compass tests I take place me usually just left of center.
Mm-hmm.
Or if it's like the 4 quadrant, I'm somewhere really close to that center axis.
Right.
Because usually I can't decide on anything. And I'm like, well, if it's like this, and I have a dog here that's whacking a tail against the door. It's the thudding sound you're hearing. But
good dog.
Yes, she has to be petted. I'm paying attention to something that's not her. It's very traumatic for her. I have to smack her a little bit. But what was I saying? Oh yes, went to Smith College. And I wasn't really into the political activism scene on campus, although bore witness a lot. But one thing I remember distinctly, and I probably have talked about this before on this podcast, because we just repeat ourselves here on the Feral Polymaths podcast, because we've got nothing else going on in our lives. But people would always have petitions to sign, right? A petition for something. And they would just like give you the 1-sentence spiel on how obviously this is what you needed to sign. But I would be like, but what does this do? And what about this thing? And nobody, not always, but frequently, they just had never thought of it beyond the sentence they gave me. And it was like, so you don't actually know what the real world ramifications of any of this are, nor have you considered the other side, even for a moment. It just sounded good at the time. Okay.
Yeah.
But honestly, that's how 99% of the world functions. Does it sound good? Then it is good.
Well,
let's move forward and pretend like that was a good thing.
It's really difficult right now because like I feel like no matter where you are with things, it's
everything's become so tribalized.
Yeah.
Like if you're gonna vote for Kamala,
mm-hmm.
you cannot even like glance in the general direction of someone voting for Trump, right? And vice versa. But like
I think the other thing that's really, really frustrating, because then if you don't want to vote for either of them, which I think the majority of people would say that that's true.
Can I have a better choice? No? Okay, then.
Say that, then you're the enemy or one or the other. Because, good God, like you're either throwing everyone who is like being scapegoated by one side under the bus, or you're completely brainwashed by, by the liberal media. I mean, like you can't really win.
I prefer to be brainwashed by both types of media, so I listen to them both. It's so funny how like one side will just like they've completely missed what the other side was going for, or like, oh, there's things that are cherry picked and taken out of context, or they're just drawing an entirely different conclusion, or
that's my feeling is like if
we're at the different parts of the data and saying that's the whole thing. And
and then both sides are just villainizing the other, and the common ground that between everyone is completely missed, because it's like, let's say like if we really, really want to keep everybody safe, like, right, like if we really say like, okay, everybody that's here is like in the group, like in the United States, we're gonna try to like band together with all of our crazy shit, and we're gonna decide to like not just randomly throw out certain groups, or randomly, call a bunch of people deplorables or whatever. Either way, we're not like just like 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 if we just decide like, okay, for the majority of people, none of these extreme solutions work, right? How are we ever going to like get to a point where if we just keep on vacillating between one team and another, how are we ever going to get to a point where anybody feels safe? Like, because you can always, because on one side, you're just going to keep on rehashing the same crap and never addressing the issues of the other side, right? And if that's just the case, then it's never going to get any better. You're just going to bounce between these two options forever
Well,
and
to a certain extent, the bouncing, I think, has to happen. I almost think like so any
ever.
system as large as like our country, if we're gonna keep it quasi stable, it has, and the whole way we roll over our government every so many years, right? You have to keep reevaluating. It's there's a
Yeah.
lot of systems like that in general where you don't just like find the solution and then it's now solved and in a steady state,
Well,
because it
also
keeps
because there's that,
evolving and you
because
keep having to go back and nudge it, and
well, and
it's
because it has all the answers. Like one thing can be right for a certain time, and then something else can be right for another situation or another moment, right?
Mhm. I
It's
think of it in
as
some ways in like capitalism,
yeah.
right? Like at a fundamental level, capitalism does a lot of good things and solves a lot of problems. But if
Mhm,
you just kind of let it go on its own,
mhm.
then what happens? Eventually, you end up with these like monopolies, you end up with wealth imbalance, you end up with all of these things. So you need to keep revisiting the system and giving it little checks and little tweaks on a regular interval. You're never going to hit that. We have found the equilibrium and now we are at peace forever. It
Well,
just
and
doesn't work that way.
see, that's what the system is supposed to have built into it, right? Supposedly. Like the idea is that you don't keep one thing in power all the time and just live with the consequences of that until it runs itself into the ground.
Hmm. Hmm. There's there's stuff in I saw this in a few different contexts recently, but like project management methodologies that basically involve like where you do things in short things, you revisit, you analyze, you modify and do a short thing again, and then you revisit, and you're constantly like
Mhm.
going back through and tweaking and revisiting versus just here's the plan and it's long and we have set it out from day one and every minute is planned, because it doesn't work that way, right? Once you start doing it, things come up that didn't occur to you, or things are different than what you expected them to be, or something didn't work out when it should have. And so most systems can't just be like created and then you just now you're done. You have to do that like rolling it over as you do it thing. That's how I approached. I feel like we talked about this on this podcast, but like writing novels and stuff was like you don't plan the whole thing out and then write to the plan. You
Right.
make a loose plan and then you keep retweaking, reevaluating, adjusting as things emerge on their own that you didn't know were going to emerge, but there they are. And then the plan builds off of that.
That would be good advice for my kid too, because she's writing. She wants to write a novel by the end of
Got
the
a
year.
future novelist going on over there. Yeah.
If that happens. But oddly, I mean, oddly, you were talking about the absurdity that ends up in contemporary art. It kind of
Mhm.
reminds me of that. I think that conceptually, for a while now, even though people have tried to like break it, you know, the premise that all of this avant-garde ideas are based on is really kind of a conservative idea if you think about it, because it's based on the premise that somehow we started somewhere with art like cave paintings and then progressed through, you know, the ancients who like got progressively better at making like buff statues, and then suddenly you got the rent like revitalizing that, and then you got perspective, and there's this very you know, going up the ladder idea of art that leads people to conclude that at a certain point, you've tried all the things and then you run into a wall and then painting is over and art is
We
over.
have solved painting. The end.
Yeah, and I think that people don't realize that that comes from this extremely conservative idea of like progress in art, which doesn't allow you to go like that doesn't allow you to think that each of these things was happening in an era that it wasn't. It's not that it was like a human project to get better at art. It was like at that moment that was the art people were making because that's what they were doing. That was perfect for them. That was what was exciting to them. That was what was engaging them in the world they were living in at that moment, right? And it has nothing to do with, that you could have had Renaissance paintings before then, but then if you had an apocalypse where you don't have anything but caves to paint on, you probably would go back to cave painting, right? Like it's what's relevant at that moment. It's not really about like getting better at it per se. It's about, people trying to express themselves in whatever way with the means they have and what they're thinking about.
So
So
art is just a thing that exists in culture, and it comes out in different ways depending upon context and time.
that's my thought. So if you're using, like, you could say that certain techniques might feel antiquated, but there's no reason not to go back. Maybe I think that the reaction against like formal painting, people pretend that it's boring and sad and over because they have these really incredible postmodern ideas that break it down and make its existence irrelevant, right? But I don't think that that's the case. I think representation is interesting whenever, like, for multiple reasons, as is abstraction. Like, they've always all been interesting. It's just that maybe there's certain ways in which, like, there is a way in which it's anachronistic. Like, why would you go, like, who has canvas hanging around in their house just at random, like to gesso? Like, there is something anachronistic about it, but it doesn't mean that it's totally irrelevant because it's like there are stores where you can buy it.
My 13-year-old has a whole easel and a whole stack of canvases and acrylic paints. That's half her bedroom.
It's basically as relevant as you want it to be, you know? Like all of these things are as relevant as you want them to be and as any given person is able to squeeze meaning out of it. That's my
the meaning in art. That's the thing that always could go on and on about that one.
A lot of people would say I'm 100% wrong about that. Very naive and way too sincere.
Well, they're wrong. So
obviously,
because they disagree with you, hence by definition. So I assume people who disagree with you are wrong. Like,
but I think it's very similar to this. Even as an artist, like even in like the grand scheme of things of art or the grand scheme of things in writing, you can go back, take the techniques that are relevant to you, reevaluate them, and use them to make something that's as relevant as new as anything else. Is my feeling. Like that's my thought. That's my 2 cents. Putting it in.
Yeah. Art's a tricky field. It's that whole balance of like abstraction and what is meaning, and it's like, it's a field that you can bullshit your way through very effectively, and that's what drives me nuts about it, is because there can be really good and really quality, really interesting art sitting right next to complete and utter, like, I picked my booger and I smeared it on a piece of paper and I framed it. Oh, it was a deep thought I had at that time. Like, what the hell?
If it was a lot of, I might think that was cool.
If it was a collection of boogers and it was like an annual progression of the change in the snot, like,
ooh, like,
oh yeah, the seasons of my snot.
Oh, that was a particularly bad flu season.
Man, I had a really bad cold that week. It's all got green.
Oh, all right. Hey, we should do this and sell it to a gallery. Let's start collecting our boogers. We should write a grant immediately.
Yes.
All you people listening,
want to spend my time on
this. You can't have this idea. It's ours. We've got it. I actually no, you can have it. Go. I don't think I want to collect my boogers. So if one of you wants to do it and we see it one day, just put our names at the bottom, like put a little star.
Yay.
Expression art.
Booger art.
And say I was inspired by these two wonderful people.
Yes, yes. That's our goal, is to inspire the future generations.
That's what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
Inspiring our listeners with our wonderful thoughts.
So, but yeah, what were we going to, we had a couple things we were going to talk about today. I don't know if we want to go into more customer service drama.
The customer service drama does not end. Well, I don't know.
Keep thinking about this in terms of like,
are we allowed to criticize the customer service of things that are like governmental? I don't know.
Yes, it's a free country.
Yeah.
God. Though, to be fair, when I did get to a person at the IRS, they actually were a competent person, and I was like,
thank God.
Oh, thank God. Thank God. I wish I took her name down and could like say something. Like, this one was good to me. This one was not a dumbass.
They totally have to keep some of those people on, because otherwise, how would any of the work get done?
Exactly. They're the only ones doing the work. I'm pretty sure of it.
Yeah, I'm sure they're being handed like caseloads of the incompetent ones, extra stuff. Be like, oh, here's some more.
That's their reward. They feel really special, I bet. But I keep thinking about this in terms of business models and economics and capitalism and all of that. And I think about, so businesses, like the driving goal is to make profits. And this makes sense. This makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
But what happens is they all hit that point where in order to squeeze out the next bit of profit, you're just doing shitty things to the people who work for you and to your customers. And you just got to find that balance of how shitty you can be to everyone to get the most money. And I keep thinking there's got to be
some kind of stopgap that you could put
some other thing to optimize for that everyone can agree on is just as good as optimizing for the profit somehow, right? Like, because I value quality customer service so much now because it doesn't exist anywhere.
This is your problem.
And I keep thinking, like,
customer service is down the toilet.
How has it gotten so bad? How are we like, how did we get to the point where we just like, yep, it's going to suck. I'm going to be on hold for 3 days with American Airlines to get my $60 back. Like, or whatever it happens to be. Like,
yeah. Well, yeah.
They're incentivized. The problem is you would go to the competitor, but the competitor is also shitty, so it's a wash. But like,
well, and often
how do we make
they're both
businesses want to make people not suffer and make like society as a whole would function better, people would be happier, mentally healthier. So many benefits can come of not being shitty to people that I don't understand why there aren't the right structures in place that incentivize reduced shittiness in the same way we incentivize profit. Like, how do we get all the parts in place to make that go in that direction? Because it seems like it should somehow.
I guess the two previous theories about how this is supposed to function, like one theory is, okay, cool. What you do is you just have tons of competition, and which obviously we're getting a little bit where that's concerned. So there's not as much. So yeah, part of it really is that the choice there isn't enough room in the system to have enough choices so that people that are acting in shitty ways are not dominating the conversation, right? And co-opting everybody else to act in equally shitty ways. The other end of it would be that not that the profits have to be shared within the system itself.
That's what I keep thinking, is there should be some sort of rule within any company that profits get distributed proportionate to work product in some way.
Social
Balanced against, like, I mean, obviously, if you're the person that built the company up from starting, your current work product, what should be included is the risk you took, the effort over time, and all of that too, right? And weighting it. But there should be a way in which,
welcome to the pinko liberal wacko side, Gail.
Shush now. I'm just saying, I feel like people would have less shitty employment and labor practices.
That would be interesting.
If you were mandated to distribute your profit in that way, right? Where you couldn't just hoard at the top. There would be at least some hoarding at the top, right? Because like I say, in order to be that person, you took risk, you invested in business. There's all of these things that happened over time.
Well, people in the US love the idea of being on top. So, like, yeah, if you take that away from them, they would probably.
Yes. You have to still have incentive for people to want to be on top. Otherwise, nobody goes there anymore. And everything's just a wash of uniformity. We have reached the heat death of society, right? Like, optimize our entropy.
I never thought it that way. I never thought of equality as heat death.
It's essentially what it is. It is, though. Like, it should actually be.
Oh my God.
There's equality, and then there's like making sure everyone has what they need, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then providing opportunities where you have to invest effort and everything else in order to achieve the next thing.
I'm into the idea of a social safety net and one that doesn't result in
enabling at the bottom or crushing at the bottom.
You're into a social navy net, no crushing or enabling, plus no yacht party at the top where we're with zero responsibility to anybody else.
Yeah, there's got to be a way to balance this. And I keep thinking about, like, I try to think about it in context of big history. Let's go back to the Big Bang and then the evolution of humanity. But societies used to be very small and tribal, right?
True.
So the whole notion of not being shitty to people was just kind of innate because you knew them all and they all knew you. We don't live that way anymore.
Everything.
It's a lot easier to be shitty to people. I mean, I know it because when I drive, I call people fuckwit McFuckface all the time.
Yeah, I drive in New York, so yeah,
I'm like, don't you honk at me just because I cut you off, okay? You were on my ass, fuckwit McFuckface.
Perceived my own driving.
It's so easy to be shitty to people when you don't know them, right?
Yeah, when they can't hear you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they may see my face going, like, what's happening in that car? You don't want to know.
When
my children is in the car with me, they're like, oh my God, Mom, stop it. Like, it's fine.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. I don't know if this is my story to tell, but I know, well, I'll say it this way. I know someone who recently was driving on a rural road in Pennsylvania, okay? And flipped off a dude because he was acting like a jerk. And he like rode up on the side in the opposite lane and showed them again.
Mm-hmm.
Like in rural Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm. I think my sister mentioned having been shot at by a road rager once, but my sister lives an interesting life too, so who knows?
Yeah,
that was in Oregon.
Actually, yeah, the person I'm not mentioning, probably interesting as well, but I don't think that they deserve that for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's you gotta play it safe enough. They're not gonna pull a gun on you.
Jesus. Yeah, but yeah, I completely like. I have to be really careful when I adjust from New York to Pennsylvania because I'm like driving in the Bronx.
Oh, yeah. We've talked about this before. And it's completely different.
And it's like, oh, I didn't say that. No. I didn't call that person a cunt-face dick sucker. No. I didn't even mind. Like, I think like dick sucking is wonderful. So
Yes.
Definitely not something you would say in front of your kids.
Yeah. Well, I feel like all my kids are old enough now. I've stopped caring. I'm like, you can just hear whatever. It's fine. I'll just make you really uncomfortable being in the car with me.
You do. I
So,
mean, act like jerks. I don't know.
but yeah, I think some of this like whole conundrum, this customer service conundrum and this like being shitty to people conundrum is just society got really big and now you regularly interact with people you don't know or have any like sense of investment in, right? And so there's no incentive to be nice to them, right? But how do we change that? How do we change people into, do we just like make everyone do some LSD so they feel connected? Like I have never done LSD, by the way. I keep
Like
thinking I should try it sometime because of that whole like you will feel connected and like everything's connected. And I'm like, that would be really cool.
yeah, that's what they believe at Burning Man.
Okay, well, I need to go because it's literally like 2 hours from my house is where Burning Man is, right?
You could go there and experience exactly what society would be
Three
like
hours.
if everyone was
Yeah.
and also did a.
Okay, well then maybe my husband's been saying we should at least go for a day or something at some point while we live here. So maybe next year's the year.
Oh my god!
And
I well, I went and I actually brought a fellow Smithy at some point. I'll have to tell you about that.
mm,
Someone from our house whose name starts with a P. So
oh, I bet I know who it is.
so
Mhm.
and I didn't go to Burning Man, but there's a like local Burning Man around here, and I was feeling very lost and couldn't leave the house very often because I was completely swamped with kids. But I would like use my like one. I would like use my one weekend of freedom when the kids were at the. This was when the kids were little. Were at my mom's house or somewhere, and I would go to this thing because it was like it's also like this is a big mushroom growing area.
Yes,
So
yes.
I know like the social scene around here is like mushrooms and bonfires and like it all kind of dovetailed into, hey, you want to go camping with us? Oh, guess what? The camping is at a Burning Man thing. I was like, oh yeah, I like camping and art. They're like, don't worry, it's just like art. And the next thing you know, you're like, oh, we're painting penises over here.
Like pictures of penises or penises themselves?
No, like people coming up with their penis and like, want to paint it?
Okay, very nice.
There's
Oh my gosh, you could, there's so many designs I can think of off the top of my head.
I know, like a little eye. This is like
Okay, now
it,
I know what my husband and I are doing on our next date night.
it's really fun. I mean,
Sounds fun.
it was like, I mean, look, the thing that's suspect about it is there are a lot of people there that would never have these kinds of expressions outside of there, so they like save it all for then, which is kind of
Sort of a little pent up.
they're a little pent up. So there's also some weird stuff going on where people are like, "We're here to have sex with everyone. Why don't you want to have sex?" It's like, because I don't know you.
Yeah, like that's not really my thing.
You can go
Yeah.
to the tent over there with the cuddle puddle. I'm sure somebody will have you sex with you from there. Gotta direct a little bit. But yeah, I actually ran with my friend. I had a very dear friend who passed away. My friend Joe, um, who was like my neighbor and like the sweetest person ever in the world. But he and I ran this amazing. Uh, we did a stall at our tent called Cut It Out, where we did a bunch of collage. So
Hmm.
I mean, basically there were a lot of like stalls and art projects and
Hmm.
people doing random stuff and like it was a free for all. What can you say? There was definitely fun things about it for sure. And it's dirty and hippie-ish and people handing out drinks. Like people just walk around with a cup and anywhere you go, somebody will fill your drink with
You
something.
don't know what it is, but it's something. Okay.
My
Yeah. Yeah.
favorite moment from any of this was that me and my friend Joe, we at some point found in the middle of this field where there were like all of these beautiful, this person had strung all of these lanterns to a balloon and like just sent it into the sky. So it was like this huge string of lanterns going like as high as this big, like air balloon thing could go. So we were underneath that in the middle of a field. Nobody else was around, and there was just a giant, um, you know, those things that kids with the balls. What do you call that thing? Ball pit. There was a giant ball pit, and a
Things
huge
with the balls.
swimming pool. Like, there was a huge like pop-up swimming pool filled with like
Mm-hmm.
balls
Mm-hmm.
and projection of like Monty Python's Flying Circus, and we just sat in the ball pit and watched Monty Python in the middle of the night with like general insanity going on. So pleasant moments. There were some pleasant moments in this naked mayhem.
Sounds fun. Yeah. But yeah, connectedness. We don't feel connected to anybody. We don't feel any of that anymore. And like, God, the pandemic certainly put that into overdrive and made us all have severe social withdrawal and
And
everything else.
anxiety as well.
Yeah. So
Whammy.
that's what I
I
keep
really
coming
want
back to.
to
The
realize that.
big
Yeah.
thing that's missing is community, connectedness, a sense that the other people involved in your project are like humans, or the other people driving on the road are maybe not fuckwit McFuck faces all the time,
Yeah,
even though they really act like it.
they
And
do. They do.
I don't know.
But yeah, there's a general antisocial feeling in the air.
Yeah, and when we were like all a little before we became an advanced societies, we lived in small tribes and you knew everybody or related to everybody. And
Maybe that's why it's so nice here because everyone's on mushrooms. I mean,
there you go.
just so you know, all right. So we do this horrible thing. It's awful where we compare and contrast sometimes, like like the news blotters from Landenberg and the news blotters from the Bronx, because they're like the most opposite thing that you could possibly imagine. And we like to be up on what's going on because we want to know who's in the community and what we're doing. I mean, there's some good things in the Bronx too. There's an amazing like little park that's been taken over. That's like a Puerto Rican haven. There's a lot of cool things, but there's also like there's some bad things happening in the Bronx. Just the other day we were driving and we saw these cops running and we're like, oh God, cops are running. We better get past this intersection pretty quick because who knows why they're running. And yeah, that's somebody had gotten run over by the train that moment. So that's that. And we've seen a lot of other really bad things. I think I told you I like tried to help a guy who had been like beaten up and robbed and nobody else.
Yeah.
I had to like when the paramedics came, they made me like walk around the block like a different direction to get home because they didn't want anybody to see that I had been talking to the cops.
Jeez.
So yeah, it can get really. There's other stuff, but it's not for tender ears. So yeah, that's very intense and it's its own thing. But then you go to Landenberg, and like as you go through like the community blotter, it's like somebody ran over my mailbox, and they're like, "Oh, never mind. 3 neighbors came and got a post and put up a new one for me." Oh.
Yeah.
Oh God, I ran over a skunk. And there's all these baby skunks by the side of the road. What can we do? I'll go take care of the skunks.
Yes, I saw this too. Like, I mean, I grew up in a small town in Oregon, and I still like some of the Facebook groups I'm in, right, are associated with that area. And there was uh fires up the hill from where I grew up, big wildfires, and a lot of people were having to evacuate livestock and all of this stuff. And it was like they had opened like places where you could evacuate to, but nobody was going there because everybody was just helping each other out. Like people with farms were like, I have empty stalls and all that stuff. So it's just
yeah. And New York too. I mean, if there's a crisis or if somebody's in real trouble, people will like. I mean, well, all right, maybe I will tell this story. So at some point we saw like in a movie, it was one of the worst things I've ever seen. It made me physically ill. But there was this young kid running and a bunch of other young kids running, and we thought like we had seen this before where kids will go and run and rag on each other or jump on each other because they just have high spirits. So we thought that was what was going on, but then they grabbed this kid, threw him on the ground, and just started kicking him. And we were back to cars, so we couldn't really move or do anything at a light. But what ended up happening, and of course this was terrifying because, like, most likely most of these kids have guns, right?
Mm-hmm.
A cab driver went and drove right into them and just like didn't hit them, but like broke up the group by like basically putting himself in the mix of like telling them to go away. The police, by the way, the precinct is like right down the thing, and they did nothing. Okay. But individuals, I've seen this again and again in New York, where individual citizens will like see something screwed up and they will take it upon themselves to correct it, or like as a group correct it, because they're like, all right, we have no other choice here. We will ignore the shit out of anything going on below a crisis, but if a crisis happens, we're all there. So I think that people do have this impulse to like help each other. They really do. It's just, I think that if you're that alienated, it just doesn't happen, you know?
Yeah, or it takes crisis level for it to happen.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's definitely part of it.
Yeah, and I don't know how you cultivate that on such a large society level. This was like part of the whole thing with that one novel series I was working on with the basically everyone became kind of connected because we started interfacing with computers more
Oh,
efficiently, and everyone's on the network and you're basically thinking with your computer. And then people started like, yeah, this is my scarf, I can talk behind my scarf.
you
um
have common
there
ground.
was like the boundaries between individuals was just blurring, and people were almost like unable to tell who they were or who other people were, and it caused this giant catastrophic collapse, and they shut off all that technology. And then like it created this massive weird societal divide where everyone who had been around during that time and had that connection severed was like just, they all felt connected to each other, but also really depressed. And then the new generation coming up, they felt nothing towards their own children. And then so there became like the kids were just the roving gangs and stuff because of the disconnect. And
Clockwork
yeah,
Orange.
so I was definitely playing with like, how do people feel connected as a part of a society? And what does that do to you? And how do you, yeah, when you feel that alienated, like you've never had that connection, and I
Right.
don't know, weird stuff.
I always wondered, like, do you feel like there's a lot of, I wonder in developments if it feels like there's connection, because I always feel like I can never tell because I never see anyone outside of their houses.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Like some developments have like a thing where the kids play on the street and they're all like together. Then some
mm-hmm,
very, even though like everything seems like ostensibly like they have all of their shit figured out, like it's clean,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But like there's no connection, right?
no connection. So how does that happen?
Like
Like,
I don't really know my neighbors
yeah.
that well, other than the ones on the one side can't handle if our dogs ever make a sound, and the ones on the other side has a dog that barks more than ours, but nobody cares about that one. But
Happen. This connection, even if you're not being super oppressed.
yeah, yeah, it's weird. And like I mean, right now I just have the hardest time in my life making friendships and connections with people. We moved to Nevada, and it's just like I
You
don't know
have,
anybody. Like now that I go to CrossFit regularly, I have CrossFit people. And sometimes we do social activities. Ooh. So, I'm working on it, but
mhm.
like my job is remote. I just sit here staring at screens and occasionally talking to voices, without faces or bodies attached to them. And then every like couple months I go to like some convention where it's like people all the time, all day. And
They're
then I'm
talking to
back
you.
to
You're
zero
so at
again.
the end of the day because you're not used to using your vocal cords that much.
Yeah. Well, I do because I talk to myself when I'm working, or I like talk
Okay.
about how annoying other people are to myself. And I'm like, why did this person do this way? What the hell? And I'm like, if I was like not me and I was a different person, I'd be saying the same thing about myself half the time. But no, I'm perfect. Everyone else is imperfect. I got to remember that. It's very
Very,
important. myself esteem.
And that should make a lot of friends.
Exactly. And that's why can't I make friends? I don't understand.
Well, to you.
I just sit around finding faults in other people all day, and it's not drawing a crowd. I don't know where I went wrong here.
You got to get a following that like is, please tell us how to correct our lives, Gail.
Yes. I keep thinking I should write an advice column. I see like I go and scroll through Reddit a lot, and like there's a lot of young people that are very confused on there, and I'm like, I could impart wisdom to you, but I'm just gonna do it in my own mind and you're gonna suffer. So it's just how it is. I try to impart wisdom to my own children, and half the time they're like, how could you possibly know what it's like to be a teenager, Mom? You were clearly never a teenager yourself. And it's not like you've lived through many things in your life that are varied and different and might have reflected thoughts and things, or that you watched me grow up from an infant and might know things about me. You couldn't possibly understand, Mom.
No.
Okay.
Insight into this. I feel
I nothing about you. It's just that I've grew you in my belly, birthed you, raised you from infancy, have observed every moment of your life. Plus, I've also lived through the ages that you are now and past them and beyond, and I've observed the world at large during that time.
And I know some things about neuroscience that you might find interesting.
Exactly. And I read things too. So
that might apply here to all of this.
No. I will never be as wise as the pack of 17-year-old boys that my 17-year-old boy hangs out with, for they have all the wisdom of the land, don't you know?
Or more dangerously, the pack of people on TikTok.
Oh God, yes.
Who know everything, obviously. So much.
Yep. Man, we're just old and dumb now.
Yeah, we're kind of old and dumb.
We don't know anything.
With our backwards notions.
Anyways, yeah. What else should we talk about?
I think like I have a few years before it really hits that.
Oh, that's what you think. Yours are
approaching there. They're kind of in the phase of like still being like, we know you're weird. We accept you.
Yeah, pretty soon it's going to be, Mom, you're weird. Please walk 10 feet behind me in public spaces and don't make eye contact.
There's a rolling of the eyes happening from time to time, like the.
Yes. Yes, I get told how weird I am. I was driving home, had my son, my 17-year-old, in the passenger seat, and driving up our street, and there's these two kids that are probably 7, 8, 9, somewhere in that range, on this little motorized scooter together. No helmets, middle of the street, riding up the street, and I'm like crawling behind them in the car, and then they kind of look, and they eventually go off, and I roll down the window because I'm like, do your parents know you're riding in the middle of the street? And my son's like, Mom, shut up. Like, if that was my kids, I'd want to know they were riding in the middle of the street without a helmet because I'd be worried they would die. Also, I don't want dead children on my road. So
yeah, they could get run over. There's also like, yeah, as Netflix tells us, there's people roaming around in white vans looking for kids like that.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, I'm really cool with people giving their children some independence and being like, hey, maybe go ride on the sidewalk and explore with your helmet on, but not like ride a motorized scooter in the middle of traffic. 8-year-olds. It's fine.
Like, it's also like pretty antisocial again, where you're putting your needs and your kids' needs above like anyone else who's using the road, right? But like there's a lot of that. There's a lot of like the sense of like discourtesy too, of like not really thinking about how anything affects anyone else.
Yeah.
So,
too. There is definitely that in the world.
Children are embarrassed by all of this, of our attempt to be like social citizens. I do not.
Yeah.
Oh, is that our sad note of ending today?
That might be. That's all we got today, guys. The world is a vampire, set to drain, and despite all our rage, we are but rats in cages.
That's right.
Exactly. Get the head banging going. I don't have the hair for it anymore, Mary Leah. I have to put on a wig. I gotta go to so chopping off all my hair is like fine when I'm just home by myself, and then I'm like, oh shit, I have to like do public things. I had to record a lot of videos recently, so I was like, okay, just own it.
Or the thing.
But I'm gonna be like going to a conference in a few weeks.
Ooh.
So, and I'm like, the more I can do, the better it is for my company. So I'm going to be involved on this panel and then on that thing, and then I'll talk at this thing. And I'm like, why am I mean, I guess it's good to do all of that. And it's good to like, the more I can represent and be out there, the better. But I always have this weird, like double feeling of like, yes, I will do the thing for my company and I will do it well. And I will speak to these people and I will be the face of this thing. But then I'm also like, I want to hide in a hole because I'm ugly and I hate myself and I don't want to be recorded.
Major shame. I went through that too this past week. Like the shame. Why?
I'm like old and mature enough to be like, I don't really care.
Yeah.
So I'll just do it. But then I also get those like, don't watch your own video. Don't share that on social media, even though you should.
In your video.
You know?
I think you do an extremely good job. I think you represent very, very well.
Yeah. I mean, I try to, and I feel like I should. And then I do. And then I feel horrified. And then I try not to think about it. And then I move on with my day. That's how that goes.
So you did a good job.
I'm like, yes, I'll do the video. And yes, I'll do the presentation. And then I will be like, ooh, let's put it out of my mind. Put it out of my mind. I can go somewhere else. Yeah. So that's a fun game I play with myself. I keep remembering back to, and you remember this, undergraduate days. The first times in our lives we had to give presentations at conferences, and I was so bad at it. I would have everything written down in a very detailed script. I would read from my script like a freaking auctioneer speed reading something, and then I just couldn't speak afterwards because I was horrified.
You've gotten so good at public speaking, though. I mean,
I taught for years, so it was kind of like, well, it was get used to it, or
yeah, you've gotten really good at it.
So I just had to stop caring how fat, ugly, stupid, and weird I was, and just own it. You know what it is?
Like I feel like I felt loose and like I was like I can do things, and then when it came time to do the electronic music concert, when I go up and do the presentation stuff. The microphone killed me. The microphone like totally got into my head and I couldn't stop saying I couldn't stop like
it happened again. Yeah.
But I've had to train myself to just be able to do that part of it without freaking out. I was used to the podium in front, not like
yeah, I can behind the podium, I can be doing weird shit with my feet and my knees, and nobody can see all the nervous tics, right? That's why I love like anytime I have to do meetings, if I have to be on camera, I can be like my hands are down here like doing weird spidery things and like tweaking around and like
leg is shaking.
My nervousness is happening just off screen and you can't see any of it.
Fine. Weird. Doing anything weird.
Exactly. I'm perfectly normal. Yeah, I'm just a little weird. I just am always going to be weird and slightly awkward. And I think as long as I just
we weren't in the
same. I'm comfortable with it, other people will be comfortable with it, right?
We weren't in the same freshman math classes because you were a year ahead of me. But you know, in my freshman math classes, I would get so into the math that I would like tuck my leg under my other leg and be like, because I was trying to keep myself from my leg shaking the whole time because I was really excited. So I was like taking notes and like, and every single time at the end, you would have to hand in your homework. I would get up forgetting that my leg was asleep, pick up my homework, stand
Fall
up,
over.
and fall like fat on my freaking face every time. I don't know that those days are over.
Yeah.
But, so we'll leave you with social awkwardness.
Social awkwardness, everybody, which is why I'm wearing this hat and scarf. Or we can play with do we want to scare people with
I'll send you.
Mary Leah's very scared by talking food, so check this out.
Jesus.
I'm a talking strawberry because these filters exist.
All right.
Somebody's job is to make this shit, believe it or not, and that is the way of the land. I much prefer my cowboy hat and mustache.
Comfortable.
Yeah, looking good, looking good.
You can handle that. That's okay. You could do that.
The pirate is also pretty good. I like the pirate.
I think the pirate would go free.
I look very manly.
I
Yes.
think that, yeah, I would totally let you on my pirate ship. You would actually be the captain.
Yes. Ooh, the sunglasses and mustache. That's also a good one. Yeah.
You
Ready
rock.
for a cop show in the 80s. That's what I am.
Wow. Yeah. I would be scared to get a ticket from you on your motorcycle.
All righty. Well, we'll sign off for today. I hope you enjoyed our ramblings about
All weird
things.
We'll be more intellectual next time. We swear.
We're going to talk about the education system at some point.
That's right.
I have thoughts about that.
And I want to hear those thoughts.
God, they're incredible. Your mind's going to be blown.
My mind is. I'm trying to keep my mind in my skull.
Yeah, sometimes mine leaks out a little bit. There's been a little bit of mental instability from time to time, but really that fuels creativity and like hyper manic episodes of incredible work output. So it's all okay. You know, there's reflection in these sunglasses that looks like the inside of a car. Is that what that is?
Oh my God, that is so bizarre.
Okay. Very strange. Interesting. Anyways, until next time, dear watchers or listeners of our terrible situation, farewell. Visit feralpolymaths.com. Bye.
Time.